Morrison.
Good morning.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure, I am a Chicago native. I grew up on the South Side. Well, no, I was born on the South Side. I grew up in the South suburbs, around Matteson, Illinois. And yeah, I went away to school to Oakwood University and Eastman School of Music. And then I was deeply fortunate to gain a spot at the Lyric Opera of Chicago at their Ryan Opera Center. So that's kind of what I've been up to. And, then our professional debuts and things of that sort, and the pandemic. So,
What introduced you to the opera?
well, I had a teacher in high school. I went to Rich South High School in Richton Park, Illinois. And my teacher there, Lana Manson, was a Northwestern and Fisk graduate, voice and piano. And she figured the best way to build the choral program was to teach voice and pedagogy. And so, out of the kindness of her heart, on her own time, she gave me voice lessons and made sure I had all of what I needed for theory and sight singing, that kind of thing, before I went off to college. And so I always told the story. I didn't know what I was learning. She just was giving away voice lessons, and I had always wanted to learn. And so I showed up one day, and I kept showing up. And then when it was time for me to sing, I said, well, do I sing this regular or do I sing it high? And she says, no, you're going to sing it high. And that's kind of how I began singing classically, and I eventually went away to school for it.
That's wonderful. Give a brief overview of that selection.
Sure. Well, this is her death scene. The last two scenes where she gets dressed up to die. I mean, how grand is that? And so I'm just so elated to be able to sing such a piece that was made famous and opened the Metropolitan Opera with Leontine Price, but also this beautiful representation of Africanness in the classical repertoire, even though it's 20th century. And I just really enjoy Samuel Barber in general. He's one of my favorite composers. I think there's something to be said about American opera and classical music, and I think this is amazing, especially I always say that I love programs like this that have this kind of audience sharing moment to them, because it is educational for everyone to see Black people in classical literature. This opera was part of that, really grand moment for American opera. And so I just love this kind of intersection of very explicit Blackness and classical European literature and classical music. And so for those who may not be familiar with opera, to see and understand, oh yes, this is a Black historical figure that has made her way to classical literature and to classical music, but also to highlight for the classical music lovers, those who may not know Antony and Cleopatra, because it's not quite a part of the regular canon. And so to highlight this beautiful music at such an important time in history, I think is a really great moment. Cleopatra is feeling pride and longing for something other than what is happening for her now. So this is a very nationalistic, authoritarian kind of move, right? She knows that if she remains alive, she will be disgraced. And so she is choosing death, like her lover, Antony, to join him in the afterlife, but also to not be disgraced. So she and her handmaidens have decided, based on their value system, that their pride and status is more important than their earthly lives at that point. And so she has decided to take things into her own hands, to get dressed in her most royal of garb, and to decide her own fate.
Is there an element where Cleopatra is empowered at this moment?
Oh, the whole thing is her empowerment. I mean, it is her protest to Caesar, and she is saying, first of all, that it won't be painful. She chose the right kind of snake to make sure that whatever it was peaceful, but also that that it was kind of a battle of the wills. And so his will was to embarrass them, and she would have none of it. So this is her taking her own fate into her own hands, quite literally. I am a big fan of nature, and so for Juneteenth and really having our first summer post-corona, I mean, however you see that, I don't know, I think it's just beautiful to highlight the nature and relationship in the poetry. And so I think that is what has gotten me through much of this difficult time for so many of us, is to be able to immerse myself in nature and to really learn from it, but also to know what that means for the people I hold most dear. And so I'm hoping that these outdoor performances will help kind of set the backdrop for such a beautiful meditation on relating and nature. So Juneteenth is a celebration, and so I really thought it was appropriate to talk about the merry-go-round. And so, yes, it's just such a lighthearted piece, so beautiful and such contrast. And again, there's this this human element of celebration, but again, it's all outdoors. And at the end, there's this beautiful picture painted of the carousel against the backdrop of the golden stars and the velour sky. And so, yeah, I think it'll be beautiful. This is such a tender and vulnerable portion of the opera because, in my estimation, Germont has shown up to put some pressure on Violetta to help his family, right? And he doesn't know her. And so it's a bit of, there's a bit of audacity there on his part, I think. And for her to respond so genuinely, but also with such grace, is very important. I don't know, I think it's a very beautiful moment. And also the fact that in some way he's able to see her humanity, even though he has shown up in a way that would challenge that. And so I think it's just a beautiful moment in humanity to see someone who has so much to lose in a lot of ways give that up for someone else. I also hope that this expression will continue to give people more of a sense of nuance around complex situations. I think these days things can be so black and white all the time, and to really have compassion for someone for whom many people did not have compassion, and to really see different shades of color in complex situations. The poetry is by Langston Hughes, and the music by Ricky Ian Gordon. And it is such a light-hearted piece. Again, it has that kind of stroke of joy and also a little bitterness. And so I really enjoy complexity in human experience. And it's just such a bubbly accompaniment. I always enjoy singing it because you can just let it rip and let it soar and have a good time. Watch and Pray has been a spiritual I have been performing for quite a while now. I was introduced to it actually through a movie. It was a part of a comedic movie with Queen Latifah and Steve Martin. And so it was used in that context, but to understand its original context and how sobering and harrowing it is really important to American history. The experience of deep and vast human beings being sold as cattle with no regard for their family structure and for their history, and being able to keep those connections is something unfathomable, but is very much a part of American history. And so I think it's an important story to share, and I'm always very humbled and privileged to take that on and be a voice to those nameless people or lost named people from so long ago. I am learning more about Juneteenth. Actually, this year I had happened upon a Juneteenth celebration some maybe 15 years ago. And so I remember it being very festive and very cultural. And I think with everything that has been going on in the world, I think so many people are looking to figure out how to center the experiences of Black people and Black people in America more readily. And I am happy to be here for a celebration that has not been a part of the mainstream for a long time, and for it to really become more a part of the fabric of the everyday American life. So I'm excited for this kind of shift.